Welcome back to our YouTube channel. This is Narayan Rao Kovur. In this video, we are going to understand exceptions to the law of demand or limitations to the law of demand. Before going to explain exceptions to the law of demand, first of all, we will explain what is law of demand. Law of demand states that ceteris paribus, the price of the commodity rises, the quantity demand of the commodity contracted, and vice versa. That means the price increases, quantity demand contracts, and price falls, quantity demand expands. There is an inverse or negative relationship between price of the commodity and quantity demand of the same commodity. This is called law of demand. But in certain situations, the law of demand does not hold good. The law of demand fails to work, or the law of demand is not valid. What are the various cases? Those are called exceptions to the law of demand. Point number 1, Giffen's paradox. Giffen's paradox. Sir Robert Giffen observed that as the price of bread increased, workers purchased more bread. This is quite against to the law of demand. What Sir Robert Giffen observed? He observed that the price of the bread increases, the quantity demand for bread also increases. There is a positive or direct relationship in the case of price of the bread and demand for bread. If we observe, price of the bread increases, demand for bread also increases. What is the reason? So bread is essential and less cost. Even price of the bread increases, still it is cheaper than meat. And meat is not essential and more cost. That is why if the price of the bread increases, they reduce the consumption on meat and purchase bread more. So price of the bread increases, the demand for bread also increases, quite against to the law of demand. Next, goods that exhibit direct price demand relationship are called Giffen goods. Goods exhibit direct price demand relationship are called Giffen goods. What are the Giffen goods? The Giffen goods are ragi, jowar, bajra, broken rice, etc. These are called Giffen goods. These are called Giffen goods. Next, what are the properties of Giffen goods? What are the properties of Giffen goods? So, inferior good in nature. Inferior good in nature. Next, no close substitutes. Third one, easily available. Fourth one, occupy substantial place in consumer's budget. A good is having these four characteristics. Those goods are called Giffen goods. Next, all Giffen goods are inferior goods, but all inferior goods are not Giffen goods. Giffen goods are subset of inferior goods. Therefore, all Giffen goods are inferior goods, but all inferior goods are not Giffen goods. In the case of inferior goods, so if the income of the consumer increases, so they demanded less. They demanded more superior goods. So in the case of inferior goods, there is a negative relationship. Therefore, all given goods are inferior goods, but all inferior goods are not given goods. So, Giffen's paradox is the exceptions to the law of demand. Next, second one is Veblen goods. Thierston Veblen. Veblen goods, prestigious goods, snob appeal, articles of distinction, etc. etc. That is called Veblen goods. Thierston Veblen, in his doctrine, conspicuous consumption, that is why these goods are named as Veblen goods. What he also he belongs to USA, American economist. What he observed that rich people use them as a status symbol to enhance their social prestige or to display wealth. రిచ్ పీపుల్ ఏం చేస్తారంటే స్టేటస్ కోసమో ప్రెస్టేజ్ కోసమో రెస్పెక్ట్ కోసమో ప్రైస్ ఆఫ్ ద కమోడిటీ ఇంక్రీజ్ అయితే వాళ్ళు ఆ కమోడిటీనే కొంటారు. ఇఫ్ ద ప్రైస్ ఆఫ్ ద కమోడిటీ ఇంక్రీజెస్, demand for that commodity also increases. So he observed that rich people use them as a status symbol to enhance their social prestige or to display wealth. If the price of the commodity increases, they demanded more. If you observe, costly car, costly furniture, gold, diamonds, etc. belongs to prestigious goods. For example, price of diamonds increases. Price of diamonds increases. Rich people demanded more. Demand for diamonds also increases. Quite against to the law of demand. Next. Third one. Conspicuous necessities. Conspicuous necessities. That means due to their constant usage, these goods becomes a necessaries of life. They become a part of necessaries of life or conspicuous necessities. For example, petrol, cooking gas, refrigerator, TV, mobile, etc. etc. We are consuming constantly. If the price of the commodity increases, we demanded more. So, price of petrol, the price of petrol increases, the people demanded more. If the price of the cooking gas increases, the people demanded more. Likewise, refrigerator, likewise, television, etc. etc. Those are called conspicuous necessities. Next. Fourth one is demand for necessaries. Demand for necessaries. Necessaries are rice, cooking oil, pulses, etc. etc. So people must consume minimum quantities of necessary commodities irrespective of their price. Irrespective of their price, people must consume minimum quantities of necessary commodities. If the price of the onion increases, people demanded onion. If the price of the tomatoes increases, people demanded tomatoes. Likewise. So price of the commodity increases, the demand for that commodity also increases. Quite against to the law of demand. Fifth one. Future expectations about prices. If prices are rising, people expect a further rise in prices. Present prices are rising. People expect a further rise in prices. Current demand increases. Present demand increases. And vice versa. If the prices are falling, people expect a future fall in price. Present demand falls, current demand falls. That is quite against to the law of demand. Sixth one, ignorant consumer. Ignorant consumer. So lack of consistent decisions, lack of proper decisions, lack of consistent decisions. Ignorant consumer. Ignorant consumers are have incomplete information, may make inconsistent decisions, and may purchase more at a higher price. If the prices are high, they demanded more. If the prices are low, they demanded less. In the point of ignorant consumer. So they have incomplete information and they have inconsistent decisions. That is why if the prices increases, they demanded more. Next, seventh one. So irrational consumer, not a rational consumer. So irrational consumer may make impulsive purchases. Impulsive purchases means so without rational calculations, without cool calculations about price and usefulness of the product. That is why if the price of the commodity increases, he demanded more. That is also quite against to the law of demand. Next, speculative goods. For example, stocks, shares. In a speculative market, particularly shares and stocks, more will be demanded when the prices are rising. More will be demanded when prices are rising, and less will be demanded when prices are falling. Quite against to the law of demand, contrary to the law of demand. Next, significant change in the sum of the factors. There are some unrealistic assumptions. What are the unrealistic assumptions? So, income of the consumer constant. Taste and preference of the consumer constant. Prices of related goods are constant. If changes, what happens? Change in income, change in prices of related goods, change in taste and preference of the consumer. The law is not valid. The law of demand is not valid. The law of demand fails to work if ceteris paribus assumption not apply. Next, finally we concluded that in all the cases, that means exceptions to the law of demand, so demand curve slopes upwards from left to right. Demand curve slopes upwards from left to right. That is called exceptional demand curve. Exceptional demand curve. Therefore, demand curve slopes upwards from left to right in all the cases that is exceptions to the law of demand. Thank you for watching. Like, share, subscribe and comment.